Hey up everyone, how's it going? Right, it's a gorgeous day. I've got my cap on to protect me from the sun, and I've decided I'm going to tell you a little bit about my green goddess, or the green goddesses should I say. Now granted, this type of cap is not appropriate for this vehicle because it's not actually a military vehicle. It was never built for military purposes, and I'll explain why. So back in the 50s, if you weren't alive back then, I'm sure you would have heard about a little thing called the Cold War. You know, a bit of a minor dispute between the Soviet Union and the US. The US wasn't happy that the Soviets were putting weapons in Cuba, which is just off their coast, and the Soviets responding with any form of defence against them as an act of aggression, potentially leading to war. So the standoff was happening. Britain, being the US's ally, was also seen as a viable target at the time, and we were planning on what to do if we should get attacked. Now, if anyone's ever heard the phrase the 3-minute warning, that's what that was about. They predicted that if Russia, or shall I say the Soviets, ever launched a nuclear bomb or nuclear missile, shall I say, at the UK, the government predicted it would take possibly about 3 minutes for it to land. Now, there isn't much you could do in 3 minutes, but it was still 3-minute warning. They said it was better than a nasty surprise. So rather than think about how do we retaliate, how do we defend, you can't really do anything like that in 3 minutes. So the question became, what do we do if it happens? Square that up a little bit. What do we do should that happen? So we went into planning for the aftermath rather than how to stop it, which we couldn't. So one of the main things they thought about was obviously any target that would be hit would be cities more than anything, especially cities like London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, be heart of industry, heart of business, anywhere like that would be hit. Now, when they thought about what would be the effects of getting hit, obviously the devastation comes into play. And what's the first thing they'd need more than anything? It'd be water. Now, city gets hit, services are disrupted, no power, no water or anything like that. So there'd been an idea that had been thought of and put into practice, which was called the Auxiliary Fire Service, the AFS. And their role was to assist the National Fire Brigade. And the government decided at the time, they said, right, should an attack happen, the regular fire service is going to be completely swamped with trying to deal with disaster control, putting out fires, rescuing people, anything like that. They're going to be absolutely swamped. But they're going to have no water to work with because infrastructure would be destroyed. So how do we get water to the cities, and who's going to sort that out? So they came up with the idea of these. The Green Goddess, which is not a fire engine, as some people tend to think, but it's a mobile pump, basically. The idea of these was, should an attack happen, the Auxiliary Fire Service would take these out. They would take them out in groups of about, say, 50. They would go out across the British countryside to bodies of water, reservoirs, lakes, anything like that, ponds, anywhere with fresh water. And the vehicles would set up in relays, and they would literally pump water from any source in the UK, any lake, reservoir, big river, whatever, to get fresh water to the cities, to help put out fires, to supply drinking water, or water to go in for filtering, for drinking, anything like that. So the idea would be, you would send a team of these out. One would one or two of them would end up at the water source. They'd pipe in and they would start pumping. They would pump down a length of pipe that was laid out across the English countryside, and that would eventually arrive in a bunded pool where the water would flow into, and then the next goddess would be sitting, where that would pump out of there and boost it on to the next area, and so on and so forth, and they would relay the water till it got to the cities. And that was the auxiliary fire service's role in a nuclear attack. Their job was to ensure that any area devastated by a weapon landing would be to make sure they got fresh water there for fires to be put out, for drinking water, whatever. So at the time, the British Army was using Bedfords as their main military vehicles. At the time as well, there was about when the S-type Bedford was coming out, hence why the front looks like an S-type, if you're aware of what they are. They took the Bedford. The first ones weren't four-wheel drive, they were only two-wheel drive. But took the Bedford, sent it away and had a body built. These are what they call coach-built bodies, all built by hand. So it's a wooden frame, it's a steel chassis, a wooden framed body with aluminium skin on it. So make the body as light as possible, but also relatively weather resistant, so you don't have to worry about rusting too much. And eventually these were put onto, they designed the four-wheel drive system to go underneath them, so these would go anywhere, but the early ones were just two-wheel drive Bedfords. Got a 6-cylinder petrol engine in it, straight 6, so quite a thirsty engine. Not very quick. This one I potter away at about 40 mile an hour, which is more than enough for it really. Apparently they can do up to 60 if you're foot to the floor, but I wouldn't be overly confident at controlling the vehicle for that length of time, or trying to stop it as well. They were, as I said, that was what they were designed for. Luckily, nuclear war never happened, at least not yet. And the Bedford, these were put into storage. They weren't used, as you can see there, legal property of the Home Office, not the MOD. So these were put into store as backup in case anything should happen. The auxiliary fire service did use them. They used them for training, and they did use them as fire appliances. These were upgraded to do firefighting as well, so they had just temporary small hoses put on the side. The lockers have also got all the equipment in them, and the pump on the back is designed for being able to obviously supply water for firefighting as well as high volume. The pump on the back, which is a Sigmund pump, can shift up to, these ones can shift up to 900 gallons of water a minute. So that's quite a volume of water they can move, and these were designed just to sit there all day pumping. The fact that you had a hand throttle on the back here, so you could monitor everything that was happening and just sit here and let it pump away all day. So that was the plan back in the 50s. Obviously it never happened, so these were kept into store until the early 2000s, when the Home Office decided, well, the British government decided they were surplus to requirement anymore. Most people will know their first main real role they had was in fireman strikes, when the fire brigade obviously went on strike over pay or whatever it was, and back then there was no rule saying they had to allow the equipment to be used. They could keep the equipment as well as the personnel locked away during the strikes. So these were pulled out of retirement, though they'd never really been used other than just having test runs, and the army were drafted in to use them. So you'll hear anyone who was with the army back in the day say about how they'd be out driving these. No one ever seems to really have much of a good word to say about them, but I think, to be fair, they actually enjoyed themselves with it. It was a pretty easy job. They weren't very fast. These aren't technically emergency vehicles, so though they do have blue lights and two-tones on them, they can't actually travel on them without a police escort. It's got a crew cab in it, so it can take 4 crew in the back, a commander in the front passenger seat, and the driver stroke pump operator. So these have got, it's 4-wheel drive, so it is capable of off-roading as well as being on-road, obviously designed for crossing the British countryside. And I said all the lockers contain different things, so we had a ground-based nozzle. These are just some of the equipment mine's got. So we've got a ground-based nozzle there that you could just put on the ground and train on a specific point if it needed flooding out like that. I assume a lot of this is, I've never actually tested any of this because I've got to get a belt for the pump. But we got baskets in there. Those are for going into the freshwater courses they are, so you don't end up pulling up debris, fish, stones, anything like that that could knacker the pump up. In this one here we've got all the hoses as well. Only 1 or 2 of them used, because that's just, this machine has only ever been on standby. It's never actually been used for anything like that. Those wooden blocks there are for when you lay the pipe out, you can drive over the pipe with them. This bit here is what was used for relaying the water on. So this would be the high flow outlet for pumping the water on if you're just trying to move large volumes of water rather than just spray it on a fire. As I said, you've got the back end of the vehicle here, so you've got the big ladder up on top there, very heavy. It's longer than the Goddess's, because you see it hangs just over the front of it when we get around the front, and there's 2 of them, so basically you could stand 2 Goddesses on their end for that. The wheels on the back are for the portable pump and engine, which this does also have, which is nice. Then you got your suction pipes sit up in the top 2, the top 2 compartments up there. And you've got your four main outlets here for your clipping your pipes onto. That's your main inlet. So that's what your suction pipes up there connect to in the basket. Then you've got this here, which is the fill up for the main tank. There is a tank on board, a 300 gallon water tank in the middle of the vehicle. That's supposed to be your backup or your primary one to use whilst you're setting the hoses up to pump properly. But when you've got a 900 gallon a minute water pump fitted, 300 gallon fuel tank isn't going to last you very long. So then you've got other pipes here, other fittings here for different types of suction if you need. That's your primer. So you'd put the vehicle into gear. It'll be 4th gear in the cab, set it to PTO. The pump would be spinning on the back. You'd pull that out. You would get your vacuum needle would swing around here, showing how much suction your pipe had. You've got your RPM there showing the speed the pump would be spinning round, and you'd be adjusting it all on the throttle here. And then as soon as the pump actually started sucking water up, you'd have a little bit come out of the primer. You'd push that in, turns the primer off and locks it away. The pump then goes into full pumping mode, where it either sends the water out through these or out through the main outlet there. In which case then the gauge will go from vacuum to pressure. And then you've got 2 pressure gauges here. I'm not quite sure why you've got 2, but I assume they must be taking 2 different readings. So that one might be more for on the suction side, and that, well, no, to be honest, I'll look into that one to see why you have. I can understand if one had vacuum and one had pressure, but the fact they both got pressure makes me think I'll have to double check that, because obviously the idea is it's just telling you how much pressure is going out the backside of the pipe, outside the pump even. but though these are more built, as I said, for flow rather than pressure. Then I said you got your reels on the side, which you would open taps underneath for that. So then you got another storage locker in the back here. This would just contain rope and a water can. Well, mine did anyway. That's the other side of the pipe lockers. This one here is the one for the nozzles. As you can see, a variety of nozzles and Y pieces depending on what you needed to do. And for a better explanation of them, you will have to find me at an event when I'm there, and I will explain everything in a bit more detail then. The bottom one here would contain the hydrant taps and the tools and all that you needed, so axes and things like that. And then this one here, as I mentioned before about the secondary pump, is that one in there, which is a little Coventry Climax engine with a Godiva water pump on the back. This pump is capable of shifting, they say, about 300 gallons a minute, give or take. It's basically just a mobile unit, so if you didn't need the big goddess to put a certain fire out, or you needed just a small bit of water moving, this could be slid out onto the floor. You'd have a person on each corner. They would pick up the 4 corners, drop it onto the wheels that were hanging off the back, and then they would carry this straight down to wherever the water source was. The 2 outlets are the same size as the ones on the back of the fire engine, so you can put the same pipes on all of them. The inlet is much smaller though, so you have got smaller suction pipes for that. And if you remember from the other side, the baskets, there was a small basket and a large basket. Small basket was for this. I haven't got this one running, unfortunately, yet. The magneto really wants doing on it, and I haven't figured out how to fix magnetos yet. So I'll have to strip it down and send it off, I think, when I get a chance. And then I'll probably do a demonstration one day of how that actually works, because it's not something I can actually easily lift in and out myself, because it technically requires 4 people. And since I'm usually by myself in this, I'm not going to try getting it out now. I'll have to use the forklift to lift it out, put it on its trolley, and then we'll take it to some water and give it a go. And then quick look inside. Inside's very basic on these. So you've got obviously your driver over there, your commander would sit this side, and your 4 squaddies would sit along the back. Ugh. Everything's wooden in here. As I said, it's a coach built vehicle, so everything is wood. The engine sits down under there. As you can see, we got the levers, the gear sticks here showing you what they do. So that, though it's got high and low written there, it's basically, that puts it in 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive. The little one is pump in and out, so when pump is in, you put that one into the middle for pump, you pull that back to put the pump in, put that into 4th, and that's the pump running in top gear. So, as I said, very basic cab. There's very little to nothing in here, because these didn't need to have anything in. When you got 6 crew members all huddled together in here, and all wearing their gear, because auxiliary fire service gear was quite bulky, because it all had to be fire retardant. So yeah, it's a lovely little thing to drive around. As I said, it's not very quick, quite thirsty on fuel. I haven't really done a huge amount to this one. More than anything, just a bit of wiring needed doing on it. When I bought it, someone thought that to change the polarity on them, all you did was swap the terminals over on the battery. Never thought about the rest of the electrics on it. So that unfortunately did it stopped the regulator working, so it wasn't charging when I got it. And nothing was running in the right direction, so the current wasn't. So I've put an alternator on it just to help keep the charge a bit higher, because she has got cameras on her all round to help me see all around it, and DVR as well, so it's always recording when I'm on the road or at events. So I've got 2 batteries fitted to it now, just to help manage the current, so battery doesn't go flat whilst I'm somewhere. I put an electric fuel pump on it as well. The mechanical one I had packed up. The non-return valves in it stopped non-returning, and though I could get new valves for it, to change them you had to tap there wasn't a locking plate on this one. They were pushed in and a punch was used to bend the metal over slightly. So I haven't been able to get around to fixing that yet, so I've got an electric fuel pump on it for now. Does the job nicely. Does mean I can also prime the fuel system before trying to start it, rather than leaving it winding and winding till it eventually starts up, which saves the starter a bit. So yeah, other than that, that's all really had done to it. The brakes don't really stick on it per se, but if she's been sitting a while, the brakes tend to drag slightly for the first couple of miles, and then they ease off again. So it does just want a quick look at again. I think those pins are probably dry in it. And the only other thing I've got to do, as I said before, is get a belt for the primer, because though the main pump's direct drive, the primer works on V-belts, and the V-belt snapped on it, so the primer doesn't actually work at the minute, so I can't take it to any water and try the pump out, because I've got no way of priming it at the minute. So that's a job that needs doing. I've done the roof on it. The roof unfortunately had cracked because they were rubber coated roofs to walk on, give you grip, because you are meant to be able to get up there. So I have redone the roof on that. I didn't put a new rubber lining on it. I've used like hardened body paint that goes in the back of pickup bodies and things like that, because it's quite hard wearing, it's UV resistant, and it's quite easy just to keep painting on. So I covered it with that up there, so it looks all right up there. Yep. You can see, you can walk up here. That's your pry bar for opening doors or manholes or whatever. You've got a smaller ladder in case you don't need the big one, and you've got a pike over there, which is used for when you're throwing ropes over or anything like that. You need to hook them down. You can use the pole to reach up and grab them and drag them down. So yeah, quite nice up here. So I've got the cameras up here as well. So yeah, I'm missing 2 pipes, unfortunately. Don't have them. I've got the ones over there, and I've got 2 here. They're quite heavy. Oh, quite heavy pipes. Yeah, so this one sat in store for quite a while. Went down to South Wales, sat in store for a bit, and eventually was sold off, like a lot of them were. Quite a few went on export because third world countries and that, these are ideal as fire engines, because you can drive them nearly anywhere. Obviously, road conditions permitting, you wouldn't really want to take it into a really deep flood or anything like that, or straight up the side of a mountain. But yeah, these were built pretty sturdy vehicles, so, and very easy to maintain as vehicles go. I haven't done any real repainting on it. You can probably see the odd place where I have just put a little bit of paint on places just to stop any corrosion going in. I repainted the orange stripe as well. So it was a sticker, but the sticker was that faded and peeling and all that being left outside. I just stripped it off and painted a fluorescent strip on it instead, which I don't think looks too bad. The paintwork, still the original paintwork. I just put paint restorer on it because I can't get a colour that matches. And if you're going to have this repainted, I would actually have sent it away to a proper paint shop to be done. All I've done with this, really, like I do with all my vehicles, is it's got wax oiled underneath just to help protect the chassis a bit more. So as you can see, it's just got that nice black look to it under here, just to help stop any rust forming on it. But yeah, it's a nice little could be calling them fire engines, but they're not. It's a nice little pumping unit. So it's got all its equipment with it, well, a lot of its equipment with it. But yeah, if there's more people want to know about it, then obviously feel free to drop us a question and ask, or if you ever see me at an event, you're more than welcome to come and have a much closer look at it. But yeah, this is my green goddess. So she's probably this one's almost been to every event I've done so far. Because I'm quite happy just drive away in it all day, as long as I've got my wallet with me to keep fueling it up. It still runs on leaded fuel, so I have to put lead replacement in it. I have also got to at some point do the head gasket on it, because the head gasket went last year and it with a lot of water in the oil. Unfortunately I can't get the head bolts at the minute. Well, they're studs in the thing, and you have a brass bolt goes on with a sharp edge to lock it down, so you don't have to keep retightening them. Unfortunately I can't seem to get the nuts at the moment, so I've had to kind of put some gasket repair in the water system, and that's worked. Believe it or not, that's worked well. So the gasket is fixed at the minute. There's no liquids going the wrong way that they should do. It doesn't use oil, doesn't use water. There's no extra emissions coming out of anywhere, so that's all good. I'm eventually going to do the head gasket, and you will get to see me do it on here, but just at the moment I'm having to make do with it just being patched for now. That's a job for when I'm not so busy and I've got a bit more time spare, because right now I am in the middle of still getting the Spartan up and running, ready for Stockport. So that's about that. But yeah, no, there's a lot of back history with the green goddesses, and just people need to learn. Well, don't need to learn, of course. You don't need to learn anything, but just sometimes handy for people to know what their history was with them. You know, why this vehicle was designed and built and never used the way it was intended to. You'll see a few people bobbling around with them. A lot of people do have them as their pride and joy. I do as well. So the only upgrades I've made to it, as I said, was it's got DVR on it. The side indicators, I have actually put LEDs in them just to make them a little bit brighter. The rear lights on it are actually what they had to have fitted when they came out for the fireman strikes, because originally these were the only lights they had on them. So those there and those two there, but obviously standards altered and they had to have more lights on them, so we ended up with those being fitted underneath. So that is an actual government upgrade done to these, but other than that, everything else is pretty well how they came out of the factory, obviously other than the fuel pump as well. But that's just a minor thing. Sometimes you got to adjust a vehicle a bit just to increase its reliability a touch. But yeah, and of course I can't travel on blue lights, so I am able to turn them off when I'm on the road. Got a switch where I can disable them completely, so I can't accidentally turn them on, and the two tones are disconnected until I get to an event. But I do have little portable orange ones on front and back, just to alert people, because this is obviously a slow vehicle. Yeah, no, other than that, everything else is still pretty well original on it. Just wants a clean more than anything. It's come out of the shed. It did travel through a little bit of rain on and off for a couple of events before, so it's just a bit dusty. Just wants a wash and a polish, really. But I might just wait for the temperature to drop a little bit before I do that, because otherwise you just end up with watermarks everywhere. But yeah, so if anyone wants to ask me any questions about it, or want to know some more, or correct me on anything I'm wrong, I'm always open to being corrected about information I know. The only way I relearn stuff is by being told. So if anyone's ever been on one of these before, want to share your experience, by all means do. I'm always interested to hear stories from people who actually use these old vehicles. Yeah, and if you want to see more, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Maybe, you know, drop us a like. It's always nice to know if anyone actually likes what I put on there. If you don't want to do that, then don't bother. I do this because I want to, so just help spread the word, spread a bit of knowledge, and yeah, just show you around my hobby, really. All this recording stuff's very new to me, so I'm still learning a lot of it and still getting used to talking to a camera, which is not something I'm used to at all. But yeah, if you want to see more, I hope to see you again soon. Right, cheers.